Okay, good evening. Okay, today we are going to start our, today is a new fresh start, book 8, okay, 泰国, okay, that's, we call 泰国 for this chapter, book 8. So, based on our regular procedure, we will read 2 translation, and then I will share my own translation. Then we can discuss one by one. So before we start, this book is a little bit different than others, and personally, I will call it as Zheng Zhi, okay, or Zheng Shen, who is Confucius' youngest or second youngest disciple. Zheng Zhi's mini Analects, okay. So apparently this book is compiled by Zheng Zhi's student. So basically they have the 3 kind of format. First is talking about ancient sage, the very first one, and the last few chapters. And the second part is, instead of Confucius said, it's Zheng Zhi said. Okay, Mr. Zheng, or the teacher, the master Zheng said. So that must be his student recorded. Okay, and personally, I believe that's before he died, just on his deathbed. Okay, I believe. Okay, and the third part is traditional. The master said. Okay, so there's the 3 kind of format. So we will start from the very first one. So who is going to read your own translation? We just type exclamation mark. So I will bring you or raise your digital hand. Anybody? Penny, please.
Okay, I'll read. This is from the James Legge translation. The master said, Tai Po may be said to have reached the highest point of virtuous action. Thrice he declined the kingdom, and the people in ignorance of his motives could not express their approbation of his conduct.
Okay, thank you. Any other version?
Want to read Robert?
No? Okay.
Robert Enos?
Okay, please.
Okay.
Okay.
The master said, Tai Po may be said to have possessed the utmost of virtue. Thrice he ceded the world to another. The people could find no words to praise him.
Okay, let me share my version. Okay, so first I would like to, probably I should show the chart one more time. Tai Po, okay, that's the name of this book. So if you were here last week, you probably remember we talking about the Confucius, talking about the Duke Lu married the princess from the state of Wu, and they are from the same family. I share this one. So who is Tai Po? Okay, that's 700 years before Confucius' time. Okay, so I talk about this one before. That's 1200 BC, very, very long time ago. So they have the Lord Tai of Zhou, okay, Zhou Taiwan, okay. At that time, he is a feudal lord under Shang, okay. So he has, of course, he had many sons, but we know the first son, the eldest son, is Tai Po. Okay, that's the title of this book. Second one is Zhong Yong. Okay, the third one, or the youngest one, is 季力. Okay, remember these three names. Okay, we can call it 1, 2, 3. The first one is 太伯. So the Lord of Zhou preferred give the throne to 季力. Okay, so his two older brothers, 太伯 and 仲雍, escaped south to, I think it's today's Shanghai, this area, okay, to the south. So they established a new state called Wu. So what they did is they cut off their hair, they tattoo their body. So that means my body is useless anymore because you tattoo your body, you damage your body. So I always tell the kids, don't tattoo your body because you damage your body, you lost your right of inheritance. Okay, so that's what they did. They go to the state. So Confucius is very appreciate this kind of behavior. Whenever something happened, instead of fighting for it, you will yield to other people. In this case, the two elder brothers supposed to get the throne, inherit the throne. But since they know their father prefer their younger brother, instead of fighting for it, they decide to leave. And you might remember many times in the analog, Confucius keep talking about Bo Yi and Shu Qi. Okay, that also happened during the same time on the other state, because Bo Yi is the first son, Shu Qi is the second son, and then their father want to give the throne to the second son. So the second son refused to do this, to accept, to inherit, so he escaped. And his older brother knew that, also escaped. So you can see this kind of virtue is the virtue Confucius appreciates. So that's the background. So this book, we start from Confucius said, the master said, 太伯 can be said to have had an ultimate virtue. That's kind of virtue Confucius appreciates. 3 times he declined the rule of the world. Okay. The people could find no word to praise him. Okay. So basics,太伯reject 3 times. Okay. The reason is their father want to give the throne to the third, his younger brother, and when the father died, the younger brother Ji Li asked 太伯, the older brother, said, please, you supposed to be the king of our state. Okay. And the 太伯said, no. Our father said, you shall inherit. So this happened 3 times. So he escaped. And the second son, okay, Zhong Yong, also do the same thing and also escape. Then later on, Ji Li become the lord of Zhou, and later on his son and his grandson and established the state of Zhou, which become the emperor of the entire China. So that's the background. And then this chapter is Confucius talking about 太伯 has the highest virtue, and this virtue is so high, the people could not find any word to praise him. So that's the this chapter talking about. So if any comment, and what do you think? And please raise your hand. Joe, please.
No, the only thing I when I read this, now that I have greater context of it, the thing that has come to mind is the virtue of humility, and that now I also read something where he also concealed this from the people as well, right? That he turned it down 3 times.
Yes, he turned down
Yeah.
3 times.
He
Yeah.
turned it down 3 times, but he never told anybody as well.
I don't know this one, but Confucius knows.
Okay, yeah, because in one of the notes that I had read in another book had mentioned that, yes, that he had turned it down 3 times and basically had not let anybody know, so that this was an act of humility on a number of levels. Also, would this be an act of duty as well? Duty in the sense that his older brother should have been king, or am I understanding that correctly?
Well, according to the tradition, right,
Right.
the eldest son should should inherit the throne.
Right.
So I don't think that's a duty to yield, at least my understanding, to give to other people. But Confucius really appreciate people doing this one, this kind of behavior. So I remember I think in book 7, we talk about in the state of Wei, and the father and the son fighting for the throne. And
Yes.
that kind of situation, Confucius is really, really, I believe he doesn't know how to handle this situation, because he believes father and the son should not, they should love each other. They should, and the brothers should, give things to each other, not fighting for things. So that's the Confucius teaching on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comment or question, or any different opinion on that? Or you want to share what do you learn from this? Brian, please.
Well, it's interesting to me the way it's written. So with that great background, thank you for that. You guys, you've gone off on the virtues, humility, duty, and this, but there's probably another angle that causes me to raise a question. The other angle is that someone else, the people, benefited from his virtuous act. So there's a benefit from the act that he took, and maybe the benefit was intentional, maybe it's incidental, maybe it's just the fact that he wants to avoid fighting in the family, but it does redound to the benefit of the people. And my question is how do we judge virtuous acts with Confucius? By the intended outcomes, or the act itself?
Great question. And I have an answer of this one, my own answer, because I thought about this long time ago. Okay, I think the reason is they based on the outcome, okay, in the Confucius thinking, okay, because Ji Li, the third son or the youngest son, inherits the throne, and then after he died, his first son is King Wen, okay, who is the person who compiled the Book of Changes, okay, and then his son, which is the grandson of Ji Li, is the King Wu of Zhou, who revolt against the Song dynasty, and then built the wonderful model of Confucius or Ru model, okay, the feudal system, okay, become the emperor of China. And his younger brother, Duke Zhou, okay, set up or create the perfect ritualistic system, which Confucius praised a lot. So in Confucius' point of view, if 700 years ago, this thing doesn't happen, Okay, so we don't have the ancient sage king, King Wen and the King Wu and the Duke Zhou and this wonderful ritualistic system, right? So in Confucius' point of view, is that's the right decision. That's virtue because the outcome is great. Okay, so I think that's in Confucius' point of view. That's why he appraised it. Okay, this one. So you can argue, okay, that's in the high side, right? Because who knows, if history take a different turn, what's going on? We don't know. But in Confucius' point of view, that's great behavior because have the third son or the youngest son inherit the throne. It's a good decision because they've set up a beautiful, perfect system. So I hope I answer your question in the Confucius point of view.
Yes, thank you.
So any other comment or question, suggestion, discussion, sharing? Okay, so let's move on for the second one. Okay, so this one is only first chapter, and the first chapter is dealing with the ancient sage king. Okay, so from now on, the second one we'll talk about is the master say. Okay, then the third one will become the zhengs. Okay, so let's read the chapter 2. Penny, you want to read the chapter 2?
Sure. Chapter 2. The master said, respectfulness without the rules of propriety becomes laborious bustle. Carefulness without the rules of propriety becomes timidity. Boldness without the rules of propriety becomes insubordination. Straightforwardness without the rules of propriety becomes rudeness. When those who are in high stations perform well all their duties to their relations, the people are aroused to virtue. When old friends are not neglected by them, the people are preserved from meanness.
Thank you. Joe, you want to read your version?
Yeah, because I found this passage to be especially interesting, actually.
Yeah.
The master said, respectfulness without ritual propriety leads to unease. Sincerity without ritual propriety leads to dissatisfaction. Courage without ritual propriety leads to disorder. Honesty without ritual propriety leads to intolerance. If the noble person in earnest in his devotion to his family, the people will rise to the level of humanity. If the old subjects are not abandoned, the people will not be volatile.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let me share my version. I think this one is a little bit challenging, and then the difficult part is, let me share this one. That's why I had to make a chart on that. So this one is a master set. Okay, so I will read this one as a two-part. Okay, the first one talk about, we can say the virtue, and the second part talk about what a junzi needs to do. So first, let me read my translation. The master said, courtesy without the ritual becomes grueling. Carefulness without the rituals becomes timidity. Bravery without the rituals becomes mayhem. Candidness without rituals becomes rudeness. When a junzi is true to those who are close to him, people will be inspired by ren, which is benevolence. When he doesn't ignore his old friends, people are inspired to not to be dishonest. Okay, so this one is a little bit strange. We call it not be dishonest. It should be well, it would be easier to say people are inspired to be honest, but unfortunately, the text, original text, is talking about is not dishonest. So I just try to be honored to the original text. So let's look at the first part. Okay, the difficult thing is we have to translate a few words. Okay, so first thing, I think I make a table here. So the first thing, Confucius is talking about courtesy and candidness. So if you look at it this way, okay, if you look at your attitude, okay, one way you can look at your attitude. So when you deal with people, there's a two way to deal. One is liberating, right? So you can be open, that means candidness. Or you can be more restrained, conservative. That means you become courtesy. So I think both ways are fine. But in Confucius' point of view, you need based on ritual, which is the, okay. Because if you are candid or too much candidness, you will become too rude, right? So that's the way to govern you. If you be more courteous, but without following ritual, then you will become gloomy, or you call tolerant, okay? You be busy around, okay? Like doing all kinds of detailed job for the people. So that's the situation Confucius is teaching you. Second thing is carefulness and the bravery, which is the situation you deal with business, or when you have a situation happen. You also have a two way to deal with. One way is be more liberating, right? You are more open. You be brave, be brave to face the situation. But if your behavior is not governed by ritual, you may cause mayhem or insubordinate, cause some problem. Another way to deal with situation is be carefulness, okay? Be careful. But if you don't do it according to ritual, you become timid, okay? Coward, okay? So I think that's the situation Confucius is teaching us. And I think it's very easy if you read Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethic, you will realize, probably very similar to what Aristotle is talking about. I think in his book 4, Aristotle is talking about bravery and temperance, right? Bravery is deal with pain. Temperance is deal with joy, pleasure, okay? So since Aristotle is mathematical, so he's talking about the golden mean, okay? Not too much, not too little, okay? If you too much bravery, you become rationalist. If you not enough courage, you become cowardice, right? So that's Aristotle's teaching, because Aristotle is mathematical, okay? And Confucius is ritualistic. So instead of calculate too much or too little, he's talking about based on ritual. And I think that's interesting to compare, two ancient philosophers, how they deal with this situation. Both are thinking about not too much, not too little, but Aristotle is talking about golden mean. And then Confucius is talking about based on ritual. And the second part here, Confucius is talking about 君子. Okay, I think here is Confucius is talking about when the 君子 is true to those who are close to him. Okay, people will be inspired by 人. So that means here 君子 is used a little bit different. He used as as a government officer, right? If you be as a model, okay, be honest, true to the person who close you, then the people, the common people will be inspired by Ren. And if he doesn't ignore his old friend, and the people will inspire to be honest. Okay, so the second part, the first part, Confucius talk about the virtue, how to deal with people, how to deal with the situation. Second part, we talk about as an officer, okay, or ruler, you have to be honest to the person close to you, and then to be, you should not ignore your old friend, and the people will follow. I think that's the teaching of this one. Yeah, a little bit long, but I hope it make it clear. Comment? Joe, please.
It's more of a question than a comment. First of all, I want to just say thank you, because between the two graphics giving us the breakdown of the typo and the breakdown of the family, and now this breakdown with the restraint and dealing with people and dealing with situations. I mean, that's a lot of work. So thank you for doing all that. And it made it very clear. The only thing that I have a question about is this: how does ritual lead to a golden mean? Like lead to somehow the in-between between or how does ritual propriety lead to the I have courage and disorder in my translation? But how does ritual kind of, how do you arrive at that? I'm kind of unclear on that.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question. Okay, my understanding is this. Okay, I think Aristotle and let's compare Aristotle and Confucius. Even both, they are talking about bravery, and I think they are talking about two different things. Aristotle is talking about virtue. He's talking about the personal training, okay, the personal quality. Okay, that's Aristotle. And the Confucius is talking about the attitude. How are you going to deal with people? How are you going to deal with situation? So in Confucius' point of view, you have to follow the ritual. And what is ritual? Okay, well, that's depend on how you understand. One way you can say is the social norm. One way you can say it is the ancient sage teach, okay? Or one way you can also based on the book or the ancient book. So anyway, Confucius has some standard to do it, depend on your situation, right? As a let's say use an example as during the war, right? As a soldier, your bravery will be different than a general's bravery, right? A soldier's bravery could be just run to the in the front, okay, and then may sacrifice your life. But a general's bravery will be different, right? Because you don't want a general just run to the front and got killed immediately. So how do you find the right position? I think in Confucius' point of view is based on ritual, okay, or one call it social norm, or based on your social position and based on whatever outside standard. Aristotle probably more talking about your own personal quality. That's why in Aristotle's Nicomachean book 4, he talked about wisdom first, right? Phronesis, the practical wisdom. And then he talked about bravery and temperance. So basically, you use your own wisdom to judge, okay, what's the golden mean. And the Confucius' point of view is your position or your attitude should base on ritual. And what is ritual? That's we can discuss later, but
I thank you very much for that explanation, because I think that that also brings into, it accounts for a lot of the other passages that we've read up to this point, in the sense that there is respect for the elders, or respect or even just for why ritual exists in the first place. And when people of certain positions aren't dressing a certain way, or overdressing in certain circumstances, that they're not behaving in accordance with their position. So that makes sense. And the general example is actually an excellent one. You'd want a general to behave like a general should. If they're demonstrating courage, you don't want them charging the front line. You'd want them, kind of commanding things. So that's kind of the understanding. So it's more based on your role than say your actual personal integrity. So no, that clears it up very, very well. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I think the Confucians are more on the role based. So he's famous said like, the prince as a prince, father as a father, minister as minister, son as a son. So everybody play your own role. Okay, that's the region. That's the rule we have to follow. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually planning to read a book on Confucianism and role ethics. So over the next few weeks. Yeah, so that's a very important thing. Anyway, thank you.
Ellison, please.
Yeah, this reminded me of this movie Taps that came out a long time ago. It was Tom Cruise's second movie, and he was a military student, and something happened where I haven't seen the movie in years, but I remember he just kind of like went nuts shooting things, and people were saying that he had all this bravery. It's called Taps. It was like second movie that he did years ago. But they said that, I remember there's a scene where they said that he had all this bravery, but he was so young that he didn't know how to channel it in the right direction. But I feel like you see this in a lot of workplaces sometimes. Like you would see it was a soldier who, they may be young and have all this energy and this bravery and they want to go to battle, but they need to listen to the generals who have all this experience so that they're using it in the correct way. Not just, otherwise you do have complete mayhem on the battlefield. But I feel like you see it in workplaces also, where sometimes you have people, that come in and they're in their 20s and they have all this excitement and energy and they want to tell everybody that's older what to do, but they don't have the life experience behind it to understand why there are rituals and why things are done a certain way. It's just something that really kind of made me think about that.
Thank you, Ellison. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Kwang, please.
Yes, what I want to add, I think that essentially Alison said what I want to say, but I just want to give a practical example, because in Confucianism, it's a lot of dialectics between what I think and what I can learn from other people or from the sages, let's say, okay? Nowadays, many people would say that they like to think out of the box. But most of the time, if you listen to them, what they say are not really out of the box, okay? It's very inside the box, because they did not learn the minimum that the society nowadays has to offer them. So it's a lot of that dialectic. Yes, you can have your personal originality, but maybe the ancients have something to offer you too. So it's a dialogue between the two.
No, thank you, Kwang. Another thing I'd like to mention, if you have time, you can check with book 17, okay, chapter 8. Confucius also talking about the same thing again. Okay, he talking about if you like to be candidness, but you are not learning, okay, you have some problem. If you are bravery without learning, you will cause the mayhem. Okay, so book 17 he talked this one again, but instead of talking about ritual, he talking about learning. So if you compare these two, you can see when Confucius is talking about ritual and learning could be the same thing. Okay, so okay, that's one. We will face the same situation in the book 17 if you still here. Okay. So, any other comment or question and life experience to share? Please raise your hand. Okay, then let's go to chapter 3. Okay, from chapter 3, we have many chapters. Start with not the master said. Okay, so either depend on your translation, either say Mr. Zheng said, or the master Zheng said, or philosopher Zheng said. Okay, so that would be different. So I call it the mini analect from Zheng. Okay, so Penny, you want to share your translation?
Yes. Chapter 3. The philosopher Zheng being ill, he called to him the disciples of his school and said, "Uncover my feet, uncover my hands." It is said in the book of poetry, we should be apprehensive and cautious, as if on the brink of a deep gulf, as if treading on thin ice. And so have I been. Now and hereafter, I know my escape from all injury to my person, O ye my little children.
Any other translation you want to read? Or Joe, you have a translation you want to read?
Sure, I can read it. So it's a tad different. Master Zheng was ill. He summoned his disciples and said, "Uncover my feet and uncover my hands." Poetry says. Oh, okay, somebody was talking there. Let me start over again. Okay, Master Zheng was ill. He summoned his disciples and said, "Uncover my feet and uncover my hands." Poetry says, fearful and cautious, as if approaching a deep pond, as if stepping on thin ice. Now I know I shall avoid punishment and execution hereafter, my young fellows.
It's very different, I think.
Very different. It's 8.3, right?
Both are correct, but okay. So first I'd like to mention Zheng Zi is the 46 younger than Confucius. So that's the first thing. And so when Confucius died, and Zheng Zi probably only, I think 26 years old. Okay. And then Zheng Zi lived for a long time life. He's 72 years old. So this one is Zheng Zi on his deathbed. Okay. So he didn't recover, I believe. Okay. So that's assume that. So that means it's 50 years after Confucius' death. So it's long time, half century after Confucius. All right. So that's the first thing we talk about. And this one is very important because it shows Zheng Zi, okay, attitude as a life. And or another way to do it is Zheng Zi's interpretation of Confucius. And in my personal opinion, it's very different than what I read, what Confucius' attitude of life. Okay. So that's, let me share my translation. And you probably would know why both are very different, but actually both are correct. So I'm going to translate as Mr. Zheng to avoid the master, something this one. So so in Chinese, we call Zheng Zi. Okay, so apparently that's his student. Okay, write down. Okay, write down the account. Mr. Zheng was ill. He summoned his disciples and said, "Uncover my feet, uncover my hands." Okay, the books of old said. So the following he quote from the book of old. Okay, just like Confucius like to quote the book. Okay. Trembling with fear, as if nearing the deep abyss, as if treading on thin ice. Okay. So he quote on this one. From now on, I know I can avoid this, boys. Okay, so I try my best to be one-to-one match with original text. So let's unpack what 曾子 means, this one. Let's imagine 曾子 is dying, okay? So he summoned his disciple. I believe he has many disciples because for 50 years, he can have a lot of desire. And he has a strong, huge influence in the Confucius later on because he lived very long. And when he died, I think he's the only survivor. During this time, probably none of the Confucius disciples survived. Okay, so you know, if you are the disciple, you survive. You are the last one to die. You got to say whatever you want to say. Okay, so Mr. Zheng was ill. He summoned his disciple and said, "Uncover my feet, uncover my hands." Okay, why you want to do this? You want to make sure his hand, his feet are all good. Okay, this one back to a book written by Zheng Zi. It called the Classic of Xiao or Xiao Jing, because the Confucius had many teachings like Ren, benevolence, 君子, sage, and Xiao, filial piety, also important. And the Zheng Zi focused on Xiao a lot. So later on, he compiled a book, or his disciple compiled a book, or somebody forged a book. Anyway, that's a book called Classic of Xiao. During this one, has one important message is Confucius told Zheng, your body, I translate here, our body to every hair and bit of skin are received by us from our parents, and we must not presume to injure or wound them. This is the beginning of filial piety. Okay, remember Taibo? He cut his hair, tattooed his body. He is damaging his hair, his body, so he lost the right of inheritance. So that's very important as a Confucian. Okay, you need to make sure your body is intact. So before he died, he asked his disciple to check his hand, his feet. Still fine. I didn't lose any finger. I didn't do tattoo. I didn't do anything. My body, my parents gave to me. I still keep perfect in the same shape. Okay, that's the first thing he's talking about. Then second thing, he quote from the book of Old. Okay, the words say that trembling with fear, trembling with fear. Among suggests me to do this way. Tremble with fear, because in Chinese called 战战兢兢. Okay, that means tremble, fear. As if nearing the deep abyss, as if treading on thin ice. Okay, so what does this mean? Then this means Zheng Zi's life attitude. Zheng Zi lived a long life, and his attitude is like this, always like nearing the deep abyss, always like treading on thin ice. Why? He's worried he may not follow the ritual. He may violate something. He may do something wrong. So his lifestyle is very careful. Okay, he doesn't want to make any mistake. Okay, so he knows he's dying. He said, from now on, I know I can avoid. Okay, he didn't say I avoid what. Okay, but I believe I insert the word. Okay, he doesn't have to worry. He doesn't have to trembling with fear. Okay, he's relieved. Okay, he said, oh boy. Okay, I relieved. So that's the attitude. He faced death. Okay, so that's his attitude. Okay, so you can imagine a person lived to 72 years old. He probably very careful, always trembling with fear. Okay, and until his death, and asked his disciple check his body. My body is still good. And in another way, you say, I didn't make mistake. Okay. I still live. I live a good life. Okay. Not necessarily good, ritualistic life. Okay. I can go. Boys. Okay. So I think that's the translation, and I hope to make it clear. So any comment, question, and anything, please. This 3 is a little bit long and a little bit difficult.
Can I put something in the chat and you
Yeah,
just take
please.
a look?
Yeah.
Yeah, take a look at it. Something that I read.
Yeah, they say the phrase 无知免夫. Okay, I know I should avoid punishment and execution. I don't see the Chinese word, okay, have any these 4 characters. 无知免夫. There's no word about punishment. He just say avoid.
Okay.
I know I avoid. Okay, he didn't say I avoid anything. Okay, he just say, I know I avoid. Okay, so my guess is I avoid this kind of life, because unless you enjoy trembling with fear, okay, I don't believe anyone will enjoy trembling with fear. So I believe he feel relaxed. Okay, that's just my personal. Probably some Confucian will enjoy trembling with fear, and I don't know, but at least I don't. So I believe he said, right now I can relax. Okay, just like different than Zhuangzi, right? The Taoism thinking.
Right.
When they face death, they feel I'm relieved, but it's a different way, because I'm liberated, I'm free now. I don't have to combine with this body. Okay, but I think they both of them face death bravely. Okay, but I think they have a different reason on that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I didn't understand. Thank you.
Yes, maybe the translation by Robert Eno in this context might be useful as one possible interpretation, because in the last sentence he translated as, my young friends, from this point on, meaning after my death, or at the moment of death, I know that I have escaped whole. Okay, and I think that the key word here is whole, meaning with the whole body, because Zhengzi has been taught xiao, filial piety, by Confucius.
Huang, you said I escaped what? Whole?
Whole, yeah, whole in one piece.
Oh, the whole. Okay. His
In
body still in one piece. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So since we know that Zhengzi stressed very much on the virtue of xiao, filial piety, and in Confucianism, is a major duty to keep your body intact that has been given to you by your parents. Okay, so for example, as the example given by Jason, when Taipo tattoo his body, for example, for classical Confucian virtue, it's an affront to the ancestors than to damage your body. So according to the translation by Robert Eno here, he feel relieved, because now that he's going to die, he's sure that there would be no more occasions for him, by accident or intentionally, to damage his body, which would be a big affront to his ancestors.
Yeah, thank you. I think I read this one, and then I have a little bit not disagree on this situation, because to keep your body intact as a whole, do you need to be in the attitude of trembling with fear?
Wow.
That's my point. You know, he's not like a soldier, you know, fighting in the battlefield, right? In this case, I guess, but he's I think he works as a government, the minister for the state of Lu. So
yeah, but we never know.
You never know. Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
Yeah,
It could be this case, but at least he is. But I think at least you agree. Zhengzi is a very careful person, right?
Yes.
Very conservative, very careful, and then this kind of person.
Exactly. And a small historical note, Jason. When Zhengzi died in 435 BCE, he had another comrade who was still alive, and he was Zhu Xia, because Zhu Xia had a very
Still
long,
alive?
yeah, Zhu Xia had a very long life, and he died in 400 BCE at 107 years old.
Are you sure? I don't know. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
we can check. Yeah. Okay.
Zhu Xia was born in 507 BCE, and he died 107 years later in 400 BCE, and Zhengzi died 35 years before him in 435 BC.
Okay, I don't know this. Yeah. So Zixia lived longer than Zhengzi.
Yeah, yeah, incredible. 107 BC, if we trust the tradition, of course.
Okay. Any other comment, suggestion, or question, or life? I like to know is how do you think about Zhengzi's attitude towards his life? You think that's great or unnecessary, or we should learn from him? Brian, you want to share?
Well, I'm 70 and I don't think I'm fearful or apprehensive. I think that's kind of crazy.
You're not Confucian.
And I'm still in decent shape. Oh, yeah, I think that's, plus, if you're going, I don't know exactly what the words are, the context, but trembling and fear, that's not a very good life. I mean, even if you live a long time and your body is in one piece, you avoid calluses and, toe fungus. It's not a very good life.
Well, Brian, a toe fungus can be healed.
Okay, well, please send me the remedy. I need that.
I don't know if you have a tattoo or not, so that's another thing. That's my kids always like to ask me, like, why Chinese or Asians hardly have a tattoo? That's the reason. But let's take a positive lesson on this one, and take care of your body is the beginning of filial piety, right? So forget about toe fungus or tattoo, that's a minor thing. But you overdrink, smoking, okay, use drug, they all kind of damaging your body. Actually, the person you guilty to is your parents. They give you your body and you don't take care of them. Another thing for the young kids, brush your teeth, right? Because your parents give you good teeth, or no teeth, but basics. Give you your body, you should take care of everything from your parents. So I think that's the lesson we should learn from Zhengzi.
And even if I give a small example, is if a friend gave us a gift, for example, and we respect that friend, we will take care of that gift, okay? And it's the same with the parents having given us the body, which is really a big gift. So it's a mark of respect that to take care of that big gift.
I would also say I heard this for the first time, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago. And it is, I remember it. I think this is a very powerful, I wouldn't call it a saying, it's a powerful insight to respect for your body as respect for your parents, and disrespecting your body is disrespect for your parents. First time I heard that, it was like I was thunderstruck, and I really think that's a great insight.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's if you should respect your body, since your body parent. I think the Christian have the same teaching,
I-
right?
I was-
We are the image of God, so we have a certain responsibility to our own image or our own body. Joe, please.
You just literally took what I just was about to say. It's that
Oh, okay.
Christianity has that same idea but it involves a deity, that you're made in the image and likeness of God, so that things like in Catholicism they'll say your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost or something along those lines, so that you're not supposed to necessarily put tattoos or anything like that on it, and you're supposed to take care of it and respect it in a multitude of ways. But that same concept, but it's interesting to see the difference between you're respecting it because of your parents. Now, that's a much more real way, I would say.
Yeah, I think in Christian, God made people, and in Chinese, the parents made people. So
right.
Maker. So the maker are different.
Your
Any other
parents-
comment? Yeah, please.
Parents are really sad to see when you do not take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think as a parent, I believe most of here people are parents already. So, yeah, I think you will be very sad. And then I start to understand, how I behave, will make my parents sad, when I was young. So.
I have some point from the educational perspective. In comparison of Eastern and the Western, it's a very big difference. And from this passage, I can see so many, like Jason just mentioned about the attitude is from the heart. And sometimes we need to do a lot from the heart that to restrain. People just saying, if you want to be brave, but you need to know which direction you are going to be, the bonus, right? And the sum of the wisdom and the selected way that to achieve or whatever you want to achieve. So there's a lot of restraint in Chinese culture. In fact, in the ritual and a lot of way that you need to be very, very careful. When I was teaching in the Western children, is that they don't have that kind of timid and also the careful in bowing, in doing a lot of ritual things. So it's quite different how they raise up, in different background. So in Eastern, like Confucius just mentioned about Wuli, like the last passage just mentioned about if you don't have the ritual, if you don't have the manner, the politeness, everything, we put a lot of emphasis in that. So always need to be very careful how you greet it to your parents, how you greet to your grandparents. There's an all different title, all different name, all different ritual. So in Western, they don't have that. They only have grandparent, grandma, grandpa. That's it, and say hi, that's it, that's about it. So,
Yeah.
Sometimes it will cause a lot of fear for inside your mindset, and also a lot of restriction, a lot of restraint. So there's a good way, and there's another not so good way. But I'm always thinking which will be the best way for us to maybe to learn from the Eastern and the Western, all the best part. Like what Brian just mentioned, I don't worry, okay? I was happy. I don't worry about those rituals. I don't need to give a lot of red envelope when the New Year's come out. I need to give a lot of different things to, different ways. So it's up to everyone's mindset and also your inner soul of thinking, how you're going to maybe pay the respect or to perform the ritual, or how you're going to choose. You are going to follow the Eastern culture. You're going to follow the Western culture. When I'm doing the educating children, especially in New York, here, there's always has some different point of view. But I think, yeah, it's up to the person and how they think is important. What I think matter ritual to pay the respect to teacher, to the elderly is very important, to the parents, very important. And I believe also Western is doing that too, you know, very take good care of, you know, in different way. Okay, so they all have a good part, and there always has some maybe can be improving better part on how you're going to adjust it. So I love it because sometimes overwhelmed for those too many restriction and too many, you know, yeah, that would be like timid, like a scary, trembling. That is overdo it. You know, sometimes we punish or educate our children. Sometimes it's, you know, kind of very overwhelmed for the children to follow. Oh, if you don't do this, I'm going to do the blah, 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 blah. That would be very, very trembling and timid for the youngest. So I think we all need to be adjust. What do you think is the best for up to now, right now? And you listen to the Confucius, sometimes that we need to restrain some of our thinking, or maybe the way of acting. Like you put the brake in the car, you know, hit a little brake, it's not a bad thing. You don't go, you know, go straight too much, you know, or you are bump into, you know, many something that you don't really know. So yeah, it's up to everyone's the how you think, you know. There's a different way, maybe it's teaching us, you know, like Eastern, like right now, the Jason, like translate is very good, the attitude, and also to follow the ritual from your heart, or you are going just, you know, too timid to get punishment. That is another way. That is another mindset. It's quite depends on you know, people to follow or to execute, to do whatever you think is correct to do that. Yeah. So I'm just like, in comparison, Eastern and Western, you want to yield, you want to take the thorn. That, you know, in Eastern way, you yield. Okay, you can take the thorn. But in Western, you need to grab it, the thorn. It's quite different mindset. So from the first passage we learned today up to now, I think there's a lot of thinking to me. I think how you're going to adjust and to pick the right way and to pick the right method that to perform, and also in the daily life to maintain those relationships, and to the teacher, to the elderly, to your friends. It's all quite different, up to what you think, you know, inside your attitude, your heart goes to what way.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I think for anyone live in both sides, we all have this kind of feeling. Yeah, American in a way much easier, just a big heart. So
yeah, that's true. No restriction.
Okay, so if no more question, comment, Brian, you have any comment on this one? Brian?
Yeah, I thought Joy is raising an interesting question. At least in my mind, it occurred over and over again while she's talking. Does it make sense to follow ritual when nobody else is? Or even in a one-on-one encounter or in a group? Does it make sense to follow the ritual when no one else is, when the other person is not doing that in the one-on-one encounter, or when the other people are not doing that in a small group? Does that have any power? Does that have any influence at all over the group?
Let me ask you this one as a question, and I definitely have an answer, correct, have a standard answer here. It's in the Confucius, in the Great Learning. Okay, they said yes, you need to do it. Okay, even by yourself. Chinese called 慎独. You should be careful even you are alone. Why? Because if you did something wrong, you walk out, 10 eyes will look through you, 10 fingers will point to you. Okay, that's exactly the text talking about in the Great Learning. That's very important. Don't think you are alone, you don't follow the ritual. Yes, you still need to do. If because you did something wrong, you go out, people will see through your mind. That don't ask me why, but that's the text tell me. So that's the answer.
Yeah, but if I may interrupt, I think there
Yeah,
is
please. Yeah, you also read the text, I believe. So
yeah, but I agree with what you just said, but I also think that we can give a direct answer to that. Even if in the group no one is following the rituals, you are not obliged to be influenced by them.
are you freezing? Oh.
Yeah, I think he is.
In the
Yeah.
sense that you should not be.
You're freezing,
You are freezing, you have to repeat what you say.
Can you
Okay.
turn your camera off?
or maybe
Yeah.
turn off video.
Do you hear? I'm frozen now, or it's okay?
You were.
It's
It's
okay now.
okay now, but you were
Okay.
frozen.
So I said that if you are in a group of impolite people, there's no reason, if you are a true gentleman, that you should be dragged down to their level.
I'll just say it also goes to the idea that you're doing something for the right reasons.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
you're doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because everybody else is doing it. So that's kind of almost the idea that, you know, pretend that God's looking or something along that line.
I think it's depend on that person, how you're going to do the ritual or not. It's by that person. If all the other person did not do anything, you are the one, you are going to achieve the ritual or not. It's up to that person's decision.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you are going to see, you know, you want to still do it or you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But as Jason said, you know, you need to do something right without, you know, anybody to see you, but that's a true thing. But the ritual is, I think, to answer your question, depend on that person. You want to choose to follow the ritual or you don't want to follow, is that person's decision. Probably, I think in ancient or the old age people, they will follow. But for the young generation, I don't think. So
Wow.
it depends.
Yeah, but I would think that the word the rituals is a little bit something repulsive for the young generation, but it's not the word, it's the understanding. Okay, because even among the young ones, even if they abhor the word ritual, if they have a true understanding, they would have an appropriate behavior, so they would be ritualistic, but with the true understanding, even if most of them would reject the word. But the word is not important. What is important is the existential behavior.
And also the heart to accept that. If
Exactly.
they really accept that ritual and they want to do that.
Exactly, the understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will put this one on hold for now about whether or not you should understand the ritual. Because if you move on the, I think on chapter 10, Confucius said, not necessary, you need to understand. Okay, that's a debatable question. And I just want to correct something. I didn't say, I didn't say when you are alone, you have to behave ritually or virtually. That's I just quote from the Great Learning. Okay, I didn't say that. The Great Learning say that. So let's move on for the chapter 4. Okay, Penny, please. I think.
Okay. The philosopher Shang being ill, Ming Chang went to ask how he was. Shang said to him, When a bird is about to die, its notes are mournful. When a man is about to die, his words are good. There are three principles of conduct which the man of high rank should consider especially important. That in his deportment and manner, he keep from violence and heedlessness. That in regulating his countenance, he keep near to sincerity. And that in his words and tones, he keep far from lowness and impropriety. As to such matters as attending to the sacrificial vessels, there are proper officers for them.
Thank you, Penny. Okay. Any other, Joe?
I can go ahead. Master Zhang was ill. Meng Jingzi, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, came to inquire about how he was. Master Zhang said, when a bird is dying, its cry is sad. When a person is dying, his words are good. The noble person values three things in the way. In moving his body, he avoids impatience and indolence. In holding his countenance right, he keeps close to trustworthiness. In releasing his words and breath, he avoids rudeness and deception. As for the affairs of ritual vessels, there are the staff members responsible for administering rituals.
Okay, thank you. So this one is also important, and I think that for this book, the first few chapters are difficult. Okay, so we take longer time, but after that it will be fine. And then the last few, okay, that deal with ancient sage are also difficult, and the rest is short, should be easy. So today we are dealing with the most difficult chapter. That's why we take a longer time. Okay, again, so that's why I believe the whole book is account about the Zhengzi's words on his deathbed. Okay, so again, so I believe that's the same sickness, and eventually he died. Mr. Zheng was ill. Meng Jingzi went to visit. Okay, remember Meng, that's in the three families in the Lu. Okay, when we talk about Ji, always the bad guy, Confucius always the problem. Meng is the good guy, the good family, because Confucius tutor Meng Jingzi, I believe is his grandfather. So Confucius was Meng Jingzi's grandfather's tutor. Okay, if you remember I think in book 2, Meng Jingzi's son, Meng Wubo, asked Xiao to Confucius. So their family for 3 generations all interact with Confucius. And right now, the Meng Jingzi, I don't know his age, but he probably keep close relationship with Zhengzi. And then that's why Zhengzi probably giving him advice on his deathbed. Okay, we will see what kind of advice Zhengzi gave to him. Mr. Zheng was ill. Meng Jingzi went to visit. Mr. Zheng said, when a bird is about to die, its cry is mournful. When a man is about to die, his words are good. Okay, so I think this one is a famous word in Chinese, and I think that in Western or in the legal field, we call it a dying declaration instead of hearsay. It's a dying declaration. So I'm dying. That's my last word. Should be good. So he's probably giving some advice or tell him Meng Jingzi something. Okay. So a Junzi cherishes 3 things in Dao. Okay, that's he used the word Dao. Junzi Shu Gui Wu. Okay, so right now he's dying. He cares about 3 things in Dao. So I list 3 things. In his behavior and appearance, he is far from rudeness and arrogance. With proper countenance, he is near to trustworthiness. In his words and tone, he is far from lowness and perversion. So he lists three things. And if you think about these three things, he's talking about one person's action, one person's one's expression, one's words. Okay, so basically it's talk about your behavior. Okay, so your behavior, your appearance should not be arrogant or rude, right? And he used the word sir, countenance. Okay, in book 2, Confucius talking about to be filial piety. The most important is your facial expression. Okay, so the facial expression is also important. You should be trustworthiness. Your friend, how you. So the first thing is talking about your personal behavior. Second thing, talk about when you deal with people, your facial expression. The third thing, he's talking about the word. When you speak, okay, you should make sure your word is far from lowness and perversion. So if you put these three things, you can tie back to the previous chapter, why he is trembling with fear. That's what he cares about. He cares about his every single behavior, his facial expression, his word. Okay, that's why I think that's his lifestyle. Okay, so the last word. As for the matter of sacrificial arrangement, there are proper officers to handle. So the last word is, see, you can see a person is dying. Meng Jingzi is supposed to be much high ranking, okay, in the government, go to visit Zheng Zi. So basics, the purpose of this visit is talking about funeral, right? So your last word, you are dying, and what we need to arrange everything. In today's world will be your will, who shall inherit your house, your land, your bank account, this kind of thing. But Zheng Zi's answer is very Confucian, right? We're talking about virtue, okay, the behavior. And the last word, Chinese use 扁豆之势, okay. I put a picture here. That's 扁, that's 豆. That's the vessel to hold the wine or the wine for sacrificial ceremony after people die. So he used this one as the ceremony, or how am I going to be buried? Okay, he's not worried about this one. He will let the proper officer to handle it. Apparently, he has a certain ranking in the government job. So his funeral were based on the ritual with a certain level. So he's not worried about this one. Just have the people handle it. He concerned or gives advice to Meng Jingzi is about three things, right? Your behavior, your facial expression, and the word you speak. So that's the Zheng Zi's teaching. Yeah. Question, comment, and anything you learn from this?
I think he's still very worrisome in the in the time of the illness and the bad, and think about so many things. How's the facial? How's the word? Wow, I don't know. When somebody is very ill, he still, his mindset still think too much. I think worry and yeah, very still restricted. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments?
Jason,
Yeah,
Jason.
Mark, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry for joining late, but my question about this is, what is the relevance of the reference to the bird?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I know every time you ask, that's a difficult question. That's become a common saying. I think all the people, Tim probably you know, and Joey probably you know what. That's a common saying in Chinese. Will say,
Yes.
when the bird's dying, his song is mournful. When the person is dying, his word is good. Okay, that become a saying. And you ask a very challenging question. How does the birds related to person? I really don't know. We speak for 2,000 years and nobody asked this question. You are the first one. Thank you.
It is a very good question. Actually, one of the comments that I had read in the arguments against, like I read something that has, explaining what the
Oh, yeah,
passage
please,
about,
please.
and then the arguments talks about, how humans are different from birds and beasts, so that this passage actually, in a sense, doesn't make sense. They were saying doesn't make sense in the sense that because you're talking about a noble person versus this, and you're comparing them to birds and beasts, that it doesn't make sense. That's what was the argument against it. That's all. It was just something that I had read against it.
Yeah, but
I-
on the contrary, I think that Joe, you gave the answer, because the animal precisely cannot uplift itself from its suffering, so it's mirthful. Okay, but in the case of a gentleman, his words would be good, because precisely in his dying moment, he is not obsessed by the fact that he is dying. He's still capable to say something valuable.
Another way to read it is to properly answer Mark's question is both birds and the man, okay, before you die, because you have no other thing to worry. So every voice, everything come from your mouth is from your heart. Just like a bird is dying, it's mournful, okay, that's from its heart. But when the person dying, it's also from person's heart, okay, because he's kind of sage, so
Yeah,
words.
excellent explanation, Jason. I like it, from the heart. So the bird's heart is different from the gentleman's heart.
Yes, yeah, and from my heart. So, any other comment, question, and challenging question?
Just to answer to Joy, when you say that, once again, you think that Zhenzi is a little bit too obsessed and in anxieties and so on, and obsessed by behavior and rituals. The most ironical in this case that is Zhengzi is Zhengzi school, because he created a small school of his own, is considered for having stressed more inner sincerity than external rituals. Okay, so it's a bit ironical here.
So, Kwame, that's an interesting comment. You say his school is focused on external rituals?
Now, on inner sincerity rather than external rituals.
Okay, okay. I think his school focused more on xiao, right?
Yeah, but xiao is an inner virtue.
Inner virtue, yeah. Inner virtue, yeah, that's true. Brian, please.
So I was struck, since you just asked for further comment, I was struck, I think it was in Joe's translation, in the very first of the three principles, it seemed like he was the things to keep from, I think he said something like hastiness or indolence. I forget, I didn't catch I don't remember the exact first word. What was
indolent. Let me look for it. I went off several pages. Forgive me. Where was it? It says, when a bird is dying, its cry is sad. When a person is dying, his words are good. The noble person values three things in the way. In moving his body, he avoids impatience and indolence.
Impatience and indolence.
Yes.
The reason I was just, that set off bells for me because those are, if you will, extremes that are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita.
I thought about that actually.
The 3 ways of being, there's the tamasic, which is indolence, there's the vajric, which is impatience, but then the good way is the sattvic, which is healthy.
Right.
And so I'm not really, I don't want to engage in comparative studies because they're different systems, but I will say that I find that the validity of a statement sometimes is confirmed if I see that the statement is made in different wisdom traditions. And this, it just set off bells with me that this is very much like the Bhagavad Gita in terms of the attitudes for behavior and appearance.
Okay, so I have some problem to agree on the word indolence. Okay, I think that Huang, you probably can help me. Okay, the words Chinese word used is bao man. Okay, first word is bao. Okay, that's rudeness or whatever you translate. I agree. Okay, that means violence or something bad. Man. Okay, on the surface is slow. Okay, so you translate as indolence. That in a way makes sense, but I don't think that's what Zhengzi means. I think he meant arrogant. Okay, that means okay. So because that's also in the same word, slowness. Okay, so of course that's debatable, but I think okay, it's not indolence, it's arrogance. So
Okay,
Huang,
thank you.
how do you think on this one?
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you say. No, it's very interesting because we have to be careful with the first impulse translation and to see the deeper layer. I think on this one, you're quite right.
Okay, so you agree it should be arrogant, not indolence.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, because the words, if you check, you go to Google, Google Translator, you will tell you it's slow, that words. And the indolence makes sense, okay. But also, it also means arrogant, okay, in other words. So, and I believe in Zhengzi's teaching, he probably care about you are arrogant. And he's talking to Meng Jingzi, okay, who is high-ranking people. So probably that's the reason. Yeah. But of course, we don't know.
But Jason, what you said, I think is very interesting because he was working at the court, okay, and you know very well that you have to be extra careful when you are with powerful people in any time, but especially in ancient China.
Yeah. Okay, so sounds like we have. So any other comment? Or Tim, please.
I think the understanding and the translation of those 3 principles or 3 doctrines is quite important because I checked the translation with my version, and I think that the translation of my version has a little bit difference with yours. Yeah, and the first notion it mentioned is about appearances, about appearance, and he think that when people have interpersonal relationship and talk to each other and have in social situations, we generally first observe from the appearance, like the dressing and the style of the people. And the second point is about attitude. He think that if you are a Jingzi, you should take notice of your attitude towards other people, so as that other people would think you are trustworthy. And the third one is about expression, like word and the language you use, the word you choose to interact with other people. And he think that we should take very carefully about that. I think those 3 points make sense to me because makes sense to me because I think if he mentioned about this, it must be useful, or in some ways can help us putting into practice, and like this. Because when I interact with people, sometimes I have no clue what to think about, or what to what to think about, or what should I do. But he think that you should dress yourself properly in occasions, the first one, and appearances. And the second one is take notice of your attitude. And the third one is about the expression and choose your words carefully, like this. So, and the purpose of that is to avoid being treated rudely, because people don't treat you properly because you're Jingzi, but they treat you properly because you have proper dressing, proper style, and proper attitude, and very good manner and good work, good expression of yourself. So I think this is what makes sense to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the further explanation. And the one word I forget to use is appearance, because the Chinese word uses 容貌. Okay, so I translate as a behavior and appearance. I think it also includes how you dress. Thank you. I think you talk about how you dress. Okay, you should wear the proper. So yeah. So let's move on to chapter 5. Okay, so Penny, please.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a minute for another comment.
Please.
On this, it goes back actually to all of these chapters, 1, 2, and 4, not so much 3. And I've kind of taken on board, or maybe it's just 2 and 4, but I've taken on board now that we're talking about someone other than Confucius here who's talking. And some of these, I'm noticing some slight differences, or at least reasons for asking questions on that basis, because he's always talking about people of high rank. And that's kind of been, for me with Confucius, has been addressed quite a bit. That if you will, the common people can also be inspired to virtue and to the Ru, the Li, the Richard, the virtuous way through education. And also, as illustrated by this book here, or even by chapter 2, they can be inspired to it by the respectfulness, by the propriety observed by the person of high rank. But it kind of leaves open to me, at least based on what I'm reading here from this master, what is the appropriate, or what is, would it be appropriate if the common people were not virtuous in those circumstances where the people of high rank do not observe propriety? That's the question.
So let me make it clear. So, so your question is, this book is different because Zhengzi is addressed to the high-ranking people. Is that what you?
Number one, the big difference is number one, we're reciting here or we're recording what a different philosopher was saying. The different philosopher was a student of Confucius, not Confucius himself. So that's the key thing. And then the second thing is, I just noticed that at least from these small excerpts here, it's focusing on, it addresses very broad topics. It's very brief, addressing very broad topics, and it focuses a lot on people of high rank. And
I think the people of high ranking is probably the translation, and the words here you use same as a 君子, same as the same word. Okay, so there's no special words of people of high rank. Okay, in Chinese. Okay, so they still use the word 君子. That's the first thing I like to comment. Second thing, I don't believe, that's a personal belief, I don't believe Confucius is teaching the common people. He is willing to teaching the common people if the people willing to work for the government. Okay, that's my understanding. Because later on you will see Confucius will say, he still used the word people, okay, which is different than 士, the learned people. So you have a common upbringing. You still can learn. You will make you separate from common people. But in his mind, they still have a bunch of people are common people. They are governed. Okay. So I think personally, when I read Confucius, every word Confucius said or Zhengzi said, they are talking to the politician, okay, at least the local representative in today's sense, okay. So they are not teaching the common people, the street cleaner or gardener or people like me. No, they're not teaching me. They are teaching the people with certain kind of job or willing to do certain kind of job. That's my understanding. So I think we can figure out the data on that. Yeah. So, Kwang, please.
Yes, I want to push a little bit in the same direction than Jason, because let's not forget that if you read the Analects or the other classics of the Confucianism, the people in those books always have the zi, Z-I, before their name or after their name. Okay, zi lu, zi xia, zi gong. Okay, that zi mean master. Okay, so and it's not in the sense of philosopher. Okay, that master is an indication of noble rank. And as Jason said, they are from the Shu class. They are learned people, but the Shu class is the lower nobility. So what are the usefulness of the lower nobility? They would serve as officers in the army or in the civil administration, okay? And in their life, they would be in contact and they would interact with the higher of nobility, meaning that part of nobility having the lands and the estates. So it's very important that in their interaction, they know how to interact with their superiors in a perfect manner. Okay, a perfect manner means what? That they don't want to be a flattering sycophants, but they don't want either to be arrogant. So they have to tread on thin ice. So that's why you have so much insistence on rituals in Confucianism, because those lower noblemen have ambitions. Okay, they have political ambitions, and if they want to achieve their political ambitions, they need to know how to interact properly and to influence the people having the lands and the properties, meaning the higher nobility.
Yeah, thank you, Kwam. Yeah,
May I follow up?
yeah, please.
I still have the question. I don't know whether you want to address it or not. It says here, in the chapter 2, and I think this is maybe also a question implicit in the Confucian, the recitations of Confucian's teachings. It said the people are aroused to virtue if the leader, the high-ranking people deal with propriety. This is dealing with, if that's the correct, you said that people are not aroused to non-virtue or not aroused to, I don't know, revolt or something. Is the correct translation. But here we're talking about the people, not this small group. If I'm reading this right, we're talking about the people who are not looking to work in government bureaucracies.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, his ideal is to uplift everyone to virtue, of course, but he has a focus on the people who wouldn't work for the government.
Right, okay, but I get all that, but here's the thing. Is this, in this teaching for the people who are going to work for the government, like chapter 2 might be a teaching for people who are going to work for the government. Is this, is the fact that the people can be, might not be roused to virtue if the high-ranking person is not behaving properly? In other words, can they be roused to non-virtuous behavior, let's say violence or revolt, if the high-ranking people do not behave properly? And so this is, and here's my question, is this presented as a danger, or, which seems to be at least clear here, but beyond that, is it presented as a justification? Does this kind of statement justify the people revolting if the high-ranking officials do not behave properly?
Yeah, because Confucianism is a philosophy which is a top-down philosophy, okay? Meaning that the people of high station have the duty to be role models. And here precisely, the Shu class is sandwiched between the upper of nobility and the people, okay? Because of course, as in European aristocracy, the people having lands and wealth, most of the time they run amok because they have lands and wealth, okay? And the Shu class, they're not really poor, but they are not truly wealthy either, okay? So it's a class sandwich between the upper nobility and the people, and they wouldn't advocate a virtuous behavior, and they would put themselves to the forefront as role models. But of course, they want to influence the upper nobility too, to have a proper behavior, because in Confucian mentality, which is a top-down mentality, the people having high station, ideally, okay, and that is a key word, ideally should have virtuous behavior, inspiring their subordinate.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
if they do, it's clear from this book that he's predicting, or, well, in effect predicting, that the people will also will reciprocate and behave virtuously. But if they do not, if the high-ranking people do not behave virtuously, under this teaching here, are the people justified in revolting?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me put this way. Okay. Let me set the Confucius tone correctly. Okay, that's why I bring up this text. Okay, first part, forget about it. We already talked about virtue, right? Let's dissect. Okay, the text of what he is talking. let's use the first one, okay? Here, he talk about 君子, okay? Here, let's we assume it's the government officer, okay? Okay, think about if you are a male, okay? A small town male. What you worry about the people? You want the people, well, of course, you don't want people like violent, commit crime, but Confucius always think about positive way. So you want the people be virtual, which is 人, right? You want people be honest. That's you want, right? You want this kind of people that would be easier for me. Assume I'm a male. I want govern these people, the nice people. They are virtuous, they are honest. What should I do? So Confucius said you should 笃于亲. That means you should be close to your own relative, the people who close to you. You never forget 故旧不移. You never forget your old friend, because I've been working for government, my poor neighbor, poor friend, I forget about that. So if you don't do that, the people will be honest. So I think that's Confucius' teaching, okay? Does Confucius worry about the rebellions or the violent, stealing, commit crime? I don't know, but he didn't say that. Okay, here his teaching is telling people, you want honest people, you want virtuous people, you need to do this. That's what he said. Yeah. So I hope I answered Brian's your question on this.
Well, to me, then it sounds like he's making, I mean, I appreciate that he's being positive, but it's somewhat incomplete.
Oh, of course, I never say Confucius is complete. Okay, he didn't write a theory of a political science. He didn't write that, so it's not complete. I never think he's complete. So,
okay, thank you.
We have Tim and Mark. Tim, please.
Actually, I think the most dominant feature of our Chinese culture is that we are very patriarchy. We are under a very patriarchy society system, and it has been lasting for over 2,000 years. And even now today, here in China, we are still continuing our system like this because, for instance, if a family have a son, and then by the age of 10, the parent will considering by his son a real estate or property to get married in the future. But this such thing doesn't happen as so often in society level in the Western society. So this is our Eastern culture system where our society is constructed under the patriarchy system, and under this system we are very close, and like the social class, like the ranking system. The ranking system, I think it's a very modern political word, but I don't think it fits our system perfectly. Our system is very thesis, where the patriarchy system in our culture is thesis. Firstly, we think that the emperor is selected by heaven or some higher power, and then because he is selected, and then he is endowed with a lot of talent that normal people does not endow. So he has the obligation to pass on those talents that he received from higher level or higher existence to people, level by level. So I think this is and the Confucius teaching is more like a book or instruction to teach from one level to another level, and so there is like classifications of people in this patriarchy system, because we think that some people are more endowed some people are less endowed. It's like this. And we, under our system, patriarchy system, each class and each, not class, just each a group of people are very intimate and interrelated. For instance, we think that there is a saying in our culture that the emperor is the rule or the doctrine for the minister, and the minister and the father is the doctrine of the son, and the husband is the doctrine of the wife. It's like this. And still here in our political system, it's still working, I think. It's still working. It's still working. So our system and this culture structure is very different from the Western political culture, because when he designed this structure, he was not thinking about that, about the rebellion or the kind of thing. He was thinking that if you are the doctrine of another group of people, you should first do yourself first and do the right thing and do and follow the right doctrine. And if you do not follow the right doctrine, you're not you will be thinking, or you will be considered as not in doubt, and then your legitimate I don't know. Legitimizing will be questioned, and then if it's a minister, he will step down. It's like this. That's my understanding.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's why thank you for explaining why Confucius didn't express the negative side. If you remember the first chapter, 泰国, when the thing happened, okay, they run away, okay, they refuse, okay, they don't fight for it because the brothers love each other. So, Mark, please, thank you for waiting.
Oh, thank you, Jason. I also got logged off, unfortunately, while Ting was speaking, and somehow I got back on. I was thinking about the relationship. I missed your discussion of 8.3, but when I compare 8.3 and 8.4, it almost seems like Master Zhang was doing two different things here. In one case, he was appealing, or he called his disciples. So he was calling some people to him. And in 8.4, he wasn't calling anyone, but someone came to him, perhaps uninvited. And in 8.3, I'm looking at the Sunderling translation, uncover my feet with exclamation mark, uncover my hands with exclamation mark. It almost sounds like the cry of a bird. He's concerned about something, that he has reached the end of his life without having had his hands and his feet damaged in some way. And when he's addressing at the end of 8.3, this translation says, note this, my little ones. So there is some sort of a hierarchy involved in this for sure. And so it could be that we're all both birds and human beings. You know, in some circumstances, we're a bird whose cry is mournful or sad. And in others, we're a human being where we want to impart wisdom and knowledge. I don't know. Maybe I'm going out on a wing here.
No, I think you missed the 8.3 discussion. Okay, because these two looks opposite on the surface, but I think we can consider as a continuation. When Zheng Zi, who is dying 50 years after Confucius' death, okay, so he has a lot of disciples. So you can consider all this one, including next week's discussion, as Zheng Zi's word on his deathbed. Okay, so he's dying, so he called his disciple. Okay, check my hand. Okay, and then he quote, trembling with fear, because take care of your body is the number one job, to be piety to your parents. So he feel relaxed because his body, his hand, his feet is fine. Okay, he feel relaxed. He didn't violate. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then Meng Jingzi is a powerful minister in the state of Lu. Okay, come to visit him. Okay, I believe they have some advisory relationship. So it's a high-ranking people come to see him because he's dying. So the purpose of visiting could be your funeral. What do you want to do on your funeral? So Zheng Zi, instead of telling, okay, give this house to him, give this property to him, Zheng Zi said 3 lessons, right? You will be a Junzi, the words, okay, the behavior, the facial expression, right? And then I talk about the sacrificial things that government, the officer, take care of that. I don't worry. So that's the thing. I hope we make a continuation on this one. So, and then next week, we were going to continue Zheng Zi's word. So a few teaching on that. So you will gradually, you will see the personality of Zheng Zi, whose teaching is kind of, in my point of view, is very different from the Confucius teaching. So that's we'll do. And then we only cover 4 chapters, unfortunately, but I believe these 4 are difficult for most of the people because of a lot of historical background and we deal with different kind of people. So
yeah, this was yeah, these were difficult, but it makes me feel better though that we only covered 4 because then I don't feel so badly when I only cover 4. So
next time I'm going to cover 20.
yes.
And Jason, can we say that the way that he's talking about in 4 is not only the way of living, but also the way of dying?
That's just my personal opinion. Okay, I will say no. Okay, he's talking about the way of living. And then if you read, I don't know your translation, I translated the word on the chapter 3. He asked his disciple, open his hand, check his feet. Then what he quote from the book of Old, trembling with fear, as if near the deep abyss. Okay, I think that's his attitude of living. He worry about he not only damage his body, he also worry about he is not doing the right thing. Okay, so and then he feel relaxed. He said, from now on I can avoid. He didn't say avoid what? Boys. The word 小子. He used the Chinese word. Very small guy. Okay, the Chinese word. I translate as boys. So it's kind of tone like a very relaxed, say, boys. Okay, I'm relaxed. So that's my interpretation of his attitude. So if you see that's the attitude of 2 deaths, in a way, yes, but he's more concerned about he alive, he's careful. Right now, I don't have to worry. Okay. So I think we just finished 4 chapters. Sorry, only 4 chapters.
It was a good session. Thank you. And
Yeah,
thank
we
you
had
for
a good discussion, and then we will continue for 3 more weeks, and then we will take 2 weeks off, and we will continue.
and thank you for putting all that time into all the graphics and the tables as well.
Yeah, that also helped me to understand, you know.
That helped me a lot. So
And thank you for putting up with my questions.
they were great questions,
Oh,
Brian.
your question are important, and then the question and the answer and comment and challenge or disagreement, that's all very important. You know, so
And thank you, Ting, for your contributions as well.
yeah, thank you very much, and then hope to see you.
Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, no, you're always welcome. It's very nice to have you here.
Okay, so
Okay.
thank you everyone, and I will stop the recording.